So, good evening. Please join me in a prayer for teacher student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punuktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Mahavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So from time to time I give a meditation workshop, which is really entitled The Art of Meditation and subtitled The Game of Guiding Thought. And those who know some of the things I say, I am keen to remove much confusion by removing standard terms that may have misunderstanding associated with them and replacing them with vernacular terms. For example, let's not say guru, let's say competent teacher. Instead of saying karma, why don't we say sowing and reaping? This removes much confusion. Instead of saying yoga, we can simply say union. And instead of meditation, we can also say game of guiding thought. And so there's a lot of confusion about meditation, but it is an art. And it's also a science. The science is embedded in the principles of it. And the principles of it are in that subtitle, Game of Guiding Thought. The art is game, and the science of it is the guiding of thought. Now, we all are aware that we have some thought. We are essentially thinking individuals. But when we look at things from a scriptural base, we see a kind of panentheistic view of the universe. That is, there are people who have, from time immemorial, wanted to understand if there is some supreme principle somewhere. And they're convinced of some divine power. And the very primitive people will try to understand, how is it that the wind blows? How is it that the sun shines? And so some kind of power beyond their own scope is there. And it's operating in human affairs, but they're not sure what it is. And so they don't know how to bring this presence and power into their daily experience. And I suppose there was a time, of course, not so long ago, when many of these people were content to believe that there was a God dwelling in a remote heaven somewhere, something above the clouds, some individual or some person. You see the word Dios. The Greek god Zeus is actually related, Jupiter and Zeus are related terms, because Jupiter, the Romans didn't pronounce it Jew, they pronounced it you. And so we see Dios, so Zeus, it comes out like that. And Dios goes back to Sanskrit, Dios meaning sky, the divine entity in the sky, indicating something that is infinite and beyond your boundaries. So we have all these connections, but of course this doesn't pass currency in today's more modern, more thinking world. And you can't have a God that you'll only meet after death. It must be something that is present here and present now. And the other thing that is puzzling is we notice a world of discord. We don't have to go far to see wars and famine and refugees and misery and pain everywhere. And then, of course, the question arises, what a funny God that is above the clouds, supposed to be interested in supervising all of this and making a foolish world, a world full of difficulties and pain. But that's only because we are ignorant. If we really knew that indwelling presence, then all the discord would vanish, all the inharmony would disappear, and there would be only peace. So our problem is the ignorance. Many people talk about God, write reams of books about God. And you see, but who has seen God? Who has tasted God? Who has experienced God? Who has that knowledge? All the others are based on ignorance and not very helpful. And I think I told a story the other day. I can tell it again. So there's a man riding in a hot air balloon and he gets blown off course. And he doesn't know where he is, but the balloon is low enough for him to see a man in the field, and he shouts out to the man, "Hello, where am I?" And the man shouts back, "You're in a hot air balloon," he says. And the man in the hot air balloon says, "All right, yes, but in relation to the balloon and the earth, where am I?" He says, "Oh, about 300 meters above the earth, above the ground." And then, okay, but where's a little frustrated now, the ballooner says, "But where's my exact location?" And the man in the field says, 30 degrees north, 20 degrees east. And the man in the balloon shouts down in a little bit of frustration and says, "Are you a philosopher?" The man says, "Yes, how did you know?" He says, "Because since I met you, everything you have told me is absolutely true, but completely useless to me." And so we talk a lot about theology. We talk a lot about doctrine, dogma. We talk about this book and that book. We talk about the Bible. The Bible says, as if you put your ear to the text, it will tell you something. It won't. I've tried it. It doesn't say anything. And so, what is this knowledge of God? We have to discover this through meditation, and there is really no other way. And of course, meditation has been practiced since time immemorial. It doesn't guarantee any spirituality. When I do my series on the story of Rama every Saturday morning, I make a point of saying that the demon Ravana was a meditator. But you see, that means he concentrated very well and he applied the science of meditation. What does that mean? It means that thought is extremely powerful because behind all thought is this infinite thinker. And therefore, every thought is infallible and carries through to the end, is inevitable, unless it's suitably neutralized by a doubt or a fear or a counter argument. And we're continuously talking to ourselves. We're in a continuous dialogue with ourselves. There's a continuous monologue going on, and we can talk ourselves into depression, and we can talk ourselves into elation. And so the process of meditation requires a guiding script of some kind. People often say, "Oh, your guided meditation is so beautiful, but when I try it myself, I can't do it." And then I tell them, you see, all meditation is guided meditation. The only difference is when you sit by yourself, you yourself are guiding it. You are your own guide. And it requires imagination. Why does it require imagination? Because imagination is also a thought form, because all thoughts have corresponding pictures and images. We cannot have a concept without a corresponding word, or a word without a corresponding concept. Now there's somebody here, sitting here with me, who's asked about japa. And so the whole process of meditation is really a movement towards steady concentration, and a part of that would be japa. There are a number of parts to the meditation, and we call this collectively meditation. But meditation in its purest form is where only one thought remains in the mind. Actually, true meditation is listening. Listening is the art of meditation. And in listening, in the learning of which we come to a place of transition where truth leaves the mind and enters the heart. And so meditation is coming out of the intellect and going into the heart. So just as I say, everyone in the world knows the word God or some similar word, but there are a few people in the world who know God. And for most of us, God has remained just a word, a term. Now, a mantra is a word or a term or a sound. And I won't go into that because that's not the topic that we're dealing with tonight. But mantra, using a mantra, is a useful way of connecting with the inner reality, the divine within. Why is that? And japa simply means the continuous repetition of a mantra a set number of times. And there's a reason why that number is like that, but it leads to a question, what is a mantra? We can describe a mantra as a protecting thought. It is a particular word, and there are many different types. There are Vedic mantras, and there are tantric mantras. And we have to remember that each one is a thought movement. Let us say, for example, that we are devotees. Let us say that we are inclined toward mobilizing the heart in devout feeling or expressive feeling to our nearest divine entity, because all religions say the same thing. They all say God is love. They don't say God loves, they say God is love. And how do we come to this conclusion? Because wherever we look, we see manifest glories of that entity everywhere, and most of it bypasses our attention. Sun shines, we take it for granted. The clouds cover, we take it for granted. The rain falls, we take it for granted. The seasons come and go, we take it for granted. The earth rotates, we take it for granted. Actually, the speed at which they're traveling, we take it for granted. We don't even notice. But we're on a whole train ride throughout the whole cosmos. The earth itself is rotating, and the earth itself is spinning around the sun. And the whole solar system is spinning and moving around the whole galaxy, taking something like over 250,000 years to make one rotation. And this whole galaxy is moving within a group of galaxies. And the whole thing is moving in space. So we're moving at an incredible rate and don't even notice it. All of these things we take for granted. And even if we are sitting by ourselves, the act of breathing we take for granted. The heartbeat we take for granted. The fact that some divine entity has willingly, consciously invested life energy in us, is able to digest our food, is present within the power of digestion, is there, it's grace flowing continuously. And so meditation, if you were to ask what is the purpose, it is to access the grace that is already flowing. It is, in fact, to steer one's attention toward the glory of the self, or what devout worshippers call God, and to continuously do that. And that means that so far we have not mentioned sitting, because our attention is diverted in every different place everywhere. And so we should be continuously meditating. That is, continuously driving the car of our attention and directing it in a chosen way. Generally, this power of attention is used for selfish ends, is used for egoistic purposes. And when we redirect this inward in a kind of movement toward internal discovery, then we start opening up, we start illuminating. The mind itself illuminates progressively more and more until ultimately we get the full glory of this knowledge, which becomes in us self-evident. Meditation, of course, has been quite popular so that even some spelling mistakes could make a difference, and yet for some people have the same meaning. May your medication be sweet. I saw a misspelling of that once on an advert. But people use it and recommend it, and when you ask them what you mean by meditation, generally speaking, they come up with misunderstandings. And some of these misunderstandings come as complaints. So there are some common misunderstandings, misconceptions. Focus, for example, is a misunderstanding in meditation. And often you hear, with respect to meditation, you hear the phrase, focus your attention. And no more foolish thing or idea of meditation could we have about that. It would be like hitting one note on a piano over and over again and making yourself a public nuisance. And just as the water supply is there, the grace is there, you pour it this way and you pour it that way. Lord, please here, please there. That's meditation. Another misunderstanding, making the mind a blank. So often you hear, oh, Swami, I can't meditate. Why is that? Because I find it difficult to empty the mind. Who said you should empty the mind? It's not a dustbin. It's not a garbage receptacle that you have to empty. Meditation is picking up a scene. It's not making the mind blank. If you try to make the mind blank, then you'll fall asleep. It's not doing nothing. You hear some kind of joke like that, you know. Oh, did your son get a job? No. He's taken up meditation, so he's still doing nothing. Meditation is a deliberately cultivated state. And so it's less confined or circumscribed by the other states of consciousness. It's not sitting around, it's not doing nothing. And then again, God is not a supply agent. And so the danger of the dualistic system, that is the philosophy that practices God is there, I'm here, I worship God, He is there, I'm here. And the great danger of that is the habit of making God a supply agent. It's not for enriching the ego from God's infinite storehouse. It's not seeking something which isn't here. There's no expectation, no competitiveness, no future orientation in meditation, no first person singular, and no future tense. It's simply sitting and getting to a point of listening. It's that point of silence, and most people are not used to silence. And meditation hasn't any objective goal. I tried to meditate, but I didn't get anywhere. I didn't achieve anything. No, there's no goal in meditation. It's not for your personal enrichment. It's not for your benefit. It's not for your health. It's not for your peace of mind. In fact, when people apply for the Art of Meditation workshop, I ask them, why? Why do you want to join? They say, to get peace of mind. And I say, you're at the wrong place. Go and get peace of mind first, then you can come and meditate. And so it's not for that. There's no I-ness in meditation. There's no purpose like that. Nothing is that. So then we have to then come to the question, what is meditation? And we can have a number of beautiful, beautiful definitions. Meditation really is the guided meditation of a desired mental wave. And the mental wave has a succession over and over again that develops into an unbroken flow of thought towards an object. And this is comparable to oil being poured continuously from one vessel to another, so that the subject and object merge in identity. Where does japa come into this? Well, you see, mantra is the sound embodiment of your personal ideal of this highest principle. And when you repeat it with feeling, then the concept comes with it. And it then becomes a movement that clarifies and cleans the mind. Not only cleans the mind, it cleans the body also. And that, of course, can be done in two ways. Now, in your waking life, you use it as a constant repetition, as a way of you being mindful of an eternal presence with you here and now. In every walking movement, in every working movement, in every action that you do, you can consider this divine grace is flowing, and the mantra connects you to it. So it is actually practicing the divine presence. Then it can be used in a more direct and concentrated way when you're sitting. And it is the sitting kind of meditation that most people think is meditation. But you see, you have to get self-control first. Every text on meditation will tell you this, that you have to get self-control first, peace of mind, steadiness, and then you can happily sit down and meditate. So this flow of thought toward the object is there to such an extent that object and subject merge in their identity. And this means theoretically any object can be meditated upon because the divine glories are infinite. There are no distractions in meditation, since every single part of the universe is a divine expression, is part of the glory and grace of the universe and the universal cause behind it. And it there is designed to lead you inwards if you are observant enough to appreciate it. But you see, familiarity breeds contempt. We get up in the morning and we don't think about breathing. We don't think about the process of thinking or speaking. We don't think about the complexity of the human body and how every cell is doing its function well. And without our attention, food is being digested and the heart is pumping and the blood is circulating. All the complex physical activities are taking place. Never mind the complexity of mental activities taking place and the energy co-relationship with various parts and the universe as a whole. We take it all for granted. It is only really when we pause and see unusual things that we've never seen before that something stirs in us. It is only when we are caught unawares by a feeling, a deep emotional feeling about the beauty of something, and we can't explain it. We can't put it into a box. We can't bring it down to a biologically evolutionary process. There's something within us which is deep. Let us take, for example, love. This love that enables us to be self-sacrificing completely is not an evolutionary trait. It has no advantage for our survival. And yet we have it, and we know it, and we all know about it. Let us look about the whole intelligence, the whole capacity for you to listen. And how do you listen? Well, the ears have to be there, no doubt, but the whole electromagnetic wave system has to be there. The air has to be there. The medium through which waves travel has to be there. And this carries through as sound. And when we use this sound and repeat a meaningful, protecting thought over and over again, this leads the mind inwards progressively. And so when we talk about meditation as a practice, as a dedicated practice, a sitting kind of meditation, we really are incorporating a number of components. Now, one of the most common misunderstandings or difficulties about meditation is, and on the meditation workshop, we give a questionnaire, So a lot of people have various options, such as, I never have time. The second one is, I feel lazy. Another one might be, yes, I'm not in the mood. That's a very common one. I'm not in the mood. It's an arduous task. In other words, I never prioritized it. I didn't see the importance of it. I didn't see the value of it. But the value of it is very self-evident when it is practiced. And from the moment that we know that the divine, through experience, we know, the moment we know that within ourselves and within others, then we notice something else, that our whole life changes, because there's a kind of relaxation of personal selfhood, and all the difficulties and hooks and agitations that go with it. And a feeling arises of something other than ourselves, operating in us and through us and for us. Something greater than ourselves comes. And this has been the experience of all mystics. That is, those who sat and intensely practiced several times a day, practiced for 8 months at a time. So our search for the divine and our seeking this internal spiritual dimension within us is an evidence of our own faith. And that's the starting point. That generates the enthusiasm and the drive to do it. And to know the truth, as so many words, quotations, passages, or theories, that's one thing. But it's an entirely different thing when, through meditation, this eternal word from which the mantra is derived takes root in our consciousness and comes forth as spiritual fruit. And we are told that the fruits of the Spirit are these high qualities of love and joy and peace and long-suffering, forbearance and gentleness and goodness and faith and all the noble qualities you can think of. But it's really true that when the Spirit has been touched, or when it has touched us, then this fruit comes forth in the form of harmony, wholeness, completeness. It comes as perfection. Jesus says, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven. And theologians debate. He couldn't have meant that. Well, he said it, and therefore he meant it. The possibility of that is there everywhere. And so to get that feeling that I live in that divine and that divine lives in me is a tangible feeling, and that comes in meditation. So it's a game of guiding thought to nobler heights. There's a purpose, therefore, is to be increasingly aware of the subject and the object, the internal dimension of ourselves and the external object, and then to find that there's no actual dividing line, and we do it progressively. And we do it with a sense of all the faculties that we possess, imagination, image making. We are all image makers. And it is to access that inspirational part of the mind that we can call, and Swami Vivekananda calls this in Raja Yoga, the superconscious mind, to redirect our attention inward so that something gets tapped into, as it were, and develops. And for that reason, meditation has to be steady as a practice. Same time every day if possible. Sometimes we have to may be a little flexible in terms of time, but generally speaking, we should try to do this at the same time every day, a kind of regularity of practice. Now, various religions have plugged into them this natural practice. So, for example, in the Christian practice, the liturgy allows for 5 moments, different moments of the day, because every part of the day has a different mood, a different feeling. Now, in Africa, where I come from, midday is midday, and at 12 o'clock, the sun is literally overhead. And that's the time to make a good decision, and it's the time to post a letter. If you have a sensitive letter, you make sure you post it then, in the old days of postage, So, because the sun is dominant, and those people who know a little bit of astronomy or astrology, you know that every day there's a different prime minister that can be appealed to in the early morning. There's a different rising prime minister in the morning. So, for example, on Monday, it is the moon is the prime minister. We can take advantage of its energy. That's why it's called Monday. And then Tuesday belongs to Mars, and Wednesday belongs to Mercury, and Thursday belongs to Jupiter, and Friday belongs to Venus, and Saturday is Saturn's day, and Sunday is the sun's day. So these 5 aspects of the liturgy says, and it follows a Jewish custom in Christianity, that actually the day doesn't begin when the sun rises. The day begins the night before. The Jewish Sabbath starts on the Friday evening, not on the Saturday morning, because the whole of night is an anticipation of the glorious sun rising. And so the Christian tradition has matins, that is the early morning, anticipating the rising of the sun. And then lauds, praising when the sun rises. What a glory, what a glory, what a glory. And then various opportunities. Midday is one of them, mid-morning is one of them, Vespers is another one, and then Compline is another one, so like that. And the Muslims have these 5 times a day set prayers as well, part of the discipline. But initially, spiritual practice becomes what is called discipline, until eventually it is easy and naturally, and we glide across it very easily. It becomes second nature. If you ask a small child, did you brush your teeth? The child may say yes, may say no, but is reluctant to do it, doesn't see the benefit. But now in adulthood, we don't think twice about it. Automatically we go. We have no thought that we'll ever miss it, because we realize the benefit, the hygienic benefits of it. And it becomes also, not only we understand the principle of it and the benefit of it, but also it becomes an automatic practice. It becomes second nature and ultimately first nature. It becomes habit. So meditation is a state of inner absorption in which the mind flows continuously and spontaneously toward the object of meditation. And we can take any object now for practice. An object can be external and can be internal. According to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is a steady flame of a lamp sheltered in a windless place, like that. We can just imagine that. That in itself is a meditation. According to Patanjali, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, it's an unbroken flow of the whole mind towards the object of concentration. According to the text of the Bhagavatam, it is a state in which the meditator becomes one with the object of meditation. In terms of Ramanuja, it is a state of spontaneous and loving remembrance of the most beloved. And my favorite is from a book which is called The Art of Meditation from Joel Goldsmith. He was a beautiful, beautiful Christian mystic. And he would have studied comprehensively Vedanta, and he wrote a number of books, highly recommended. Infinite Way is one book. And he writes like this, that meditation is a continuous song of gratitude, that God is here, God is now, God is love. And we can just think about that. That itself is a meditation. Because when we get to that point of, Lord, you are here, that feeling of internal presence or pure being, at that point, that is called meditation. And there are various classes of meditators. And I'm sure you'll find yourself in one of these classes. Most people will be beginners and they require resolve and purity to start with. These are starting people. And then there are those who develop a striving. That is, they can only meditate under favorable conditions. Their time and place has to be selected. And certain rituals have to be followed. They have to light a lamp. They have to get in the mood. But then that develops into the adept. And the adept can call forth the mood as they want. And then eventually, the perfect meditator is somebody who is always in a contemplative mood because they're always tuned into the glory of the self, or what religion calls God. And so this tuning in of the attention toward the glory of the divine, sitting down intensively doing it, consciously doing it, that is really the process of formal meditation. And so much of the objections or difficulties in meditation comes down to these misunderstandings that I've just told you about. But the second is, I don't really find myself in the mood. This happens particularly in the evening, because in the evening, most people have spent their day and their mind has become like a collection basket, and they've collected all kinds of concerns and difficulties and tensions of the day. And when they come down to the evening, all they want to do is put their feet up and relax. But you see, meditation, if done properly, is the most relaxing thing you can do. Because imagine, not only are you relaxing the whole body, relaxing the whole mind, because there's no objective in mind, there's no goal, and therefore there's no anxiety with it. It's not only a relaxation process, it's not only putting yourself in a deep state of relaxation, but it is also elevating the mind. It is generating a spirit of joy and bliss within you. And there's no selfishness in it, because the meditator becomes, and all these great meditators, all these great mystics, one characteristic, they never had a large following. In their lifetime, they were never famous. Only afterwards they were famous. But they never had, just a few select people, that's all, quality people. Some people say, well, what is your membership at this society? I don't care. How many lives got transformed? That's much more important. And if one life gets transformed, then we've done a good job. So if you want to get into the mood, particularly in the evening, what is necessary? Well, we had a guided meditation this evening, and the first thing that we did was we lit a lamp, and we lit an incense stick. And of course, we have a dedicated place for your practice. So it requires a dedicated place. Swami Vivekananda, in his Raja Yoga, his first steps, a chapter like that, he recommends that we have a special room for practice, or if you can't afford that, a corner of a room, and that corner becomes sacred, and it's the secret of churches and temples and mosques, because every brick then vibrates with a sense of sacredness. And then to make sure that you have a comfortable seat, a good environment where no argument takes place, fresh flowers are put every day, something like that, suitable pictures or symbols are put there, and immediately you enter the space, you are in the mood. So some examples, there are 18 mood cultivators that I could give you. Having the right living place, making sure there's a congenial environment to practice, making sure that the time is propitious. Propitious means that there are set times of the day that have a different mood. I mentioned the Christian liturgy, but you see the morning mood has a different feeling to the evening mood, and that has a different feeling to the midday mood. And favorable physical conditions. Holy company, you can't sit in a field where ants are. Holy company, this is very important. People should visit holy places and seek holy company. And right speech, make sure that your speech is conducted correctly. Make sure that you have pure food. Now there's an interesting thing, because Ramanuja's religion starts with food. Food is extremely important. What does it mean? It means that food is prepared with purity of mind. That food, all food, then becomes sacred. That means it's taken into the digestive system in a sacred way. It's offered in a right way. Because you see, if you sit down and you have indigestion, then meditation won't be very well. Or you will have good meditation on your digestive problems. And then the right method, make sure that you have the right process, the right method that you're using. Make sure that you have a one-pointed loyalty to the ideal, whatever you're meditating on. Preferably the chosen ideal is the way and also the goal. Acts of service, the right motive. Discrimination practice, which is the most important thing. Sometimes devotional music helps, chanting helps. Because the greatest way, the easiest way, the most direct way to change your mood is music. You can make the music fast and you'll be nicely energized. You can make the music slow and relaxed, and the mind goes into that as well. And the tone of the music and the rhythms of the music, all of this, for example, Listening to the sounds of the ocean would have a calming effect. And nowadays it's popular to have music which simulates sounds of nature, sound of forests, sounds of waterfalls, sounds of birds, and so on. And so all of this can be useful, no doubt. Or chanting sacred texts, ritualistic practices. And then, of course, there is pranayama. We have to be careful about this term. So what is pranayama? Well, yama means control and prana means energy, controlling energy. And the most subtle energy and powerful energy is thought. Make sure all your thoughts are high-minded throughout the day. Otherwise, when you sit for meditation, you'll be growling at God. Whatever difficulties you have, deal with them in situ. And then, of course, this japa we've been asked about. The most sacred and potent mantra that comes is a mantra given by a guru, that is a competent teacher. And that Shakti, that power, comes through the whole lineage of the teachers and becomes specifically divinely inspired for the student and is the sound embodiment of the concept of the personal ideal that is specific to that person. And then, of course, regularity and balance of practice. What is the aim of all of this? Well, we have to go to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras to get the science of it. The science of it says that there are 5 types of wave in the mind that are obscuring our own real divine self. And normally the mental state is in a scattered condition. The attention is not controlled. There's an energy, a psychic energy that is dispersed in all kinds of directions rapidly, like a jumping monkey. You know, the monkey mind. You've heard of the phrase, very popular in Buddhism, very popular in Hinduism. And so you all know the story. A monkey, if you observe a monkey, you see it's always agitated, always looking here and there. Its head and neck are continuously active. Its eyes are roaming all over the place. And it's fidgeting all over the place and scratching. And so monkey is restless by its own nature. Now you imagine that monkey gets drunk with wine and is reeling and restless by its own nature. And then you see it gets stung by a scorpion and it's hopping and it's reeling and it's restless. And then the other thing, of course, it gets possessed by a ghost and it's thrashing and it's reeling and it's hopping and it's restless. And this is the condition dramatically described of the so-called normal state of the human mind. How to get it under control. All of this are variety of waves. True knowledge is a wave. False knowledge is a wave. Sleep is a wave. Verbal delusion is a wave. Memory is a wave. And all these come out to us in the physical brain as 5 types of brain waves. But all of this agitation in a whole kind of environment, which is called chitta itself, is like a lake in constant disturbance. And we have to play the game of guiding thought. Meditation starts with a game of promoting the quality of sattva, purity, illumination, all the noble qualities that have the effect of selflessness, or have the characteristic, I should say, of selflessness, and have the neutralizing effect of the egoistic tendencies of driving to achieve something called rajas for yourself, or giving up, lazy and dull. These are respectively called rajas and tamas. We have to insert something better, a counter wave actually, and that has a neutralizing effect. And so that we are then able to see, if you use the analogy of water, you can see how everything settles, and you can see clearly what is inside the bottom of the lake, crystal clear. Some people go to Mediterranean climates and see, and they're remarkably astonished about the clarity of the water. You can see fish and you can see the sand at the bottom. But you see, as soon as waves come, it disturbs all of the sand, everything gets churned up. And as soon as the waves are calm again, everything settles down like aluminum sulfate is used to settle particles in water treatment and so on. So meditation is really a question of raising up these sattvic waves so that we are able to see the divine self. So these waves of illumination and activity and inertia are there, and we promote that wave of illumination, which, as it says, has the effect of illuminating. And so the process is a gradual devolution, if you will, going back to our own nature, merging three disciplinary actions or aspects, taking the objects of meditation, the act of meditation and the meditator, and these three become merged with increased absorption. In the kind of theological sense, the sandhya, that is the evening worship or the morning worship, merges into Gayatri, Gayatri merges into Om, Om merges into Samadhi. It is a journey within you, characterized in the yogic language as the raising up of the energy, of the coiled potential within us, and unfolding all the layers and levels of the mind of consciousness. How easy is it to meditate? Well, there are some 9 obstacles which we have to overcome, and then there are personality-derived obstacles. We can characterize people's personality in 3 different ways. One person is driven by emotions primarily, one by thought or intellect or analysis primarily, and one is driven by impulsive doing. Let's take the doing person. He sits down, after a few moments gets up. What happened? He sat down, and if you ask what was the thought process you followed, he said, I sat down and I thought of St. Patrick's Day, and I thought, oh, how beautiful and lush and green the island of Ireland is. And now I want to lead the thought back to that principle that makes everything grow. But instead, what happened? I thought of my green jersey. Did I put it in the wash? And so it goes on from there, all over the place. And then, oh, I should go shopping, and then this and that and the other. And if we trace these thoughts, there's no absolute disconnection in the sequence of it. But you see, it's a meandering rabbit hole of ideas, not disciplined at all, until we finally awaken, as it were, and say, oh, what happened? I was thinking that God is the earth with its God's abundance, with green grass, and I ended up on a shopping trip. So there are some obstacles mentioned in that one supreme textbook on meditation, which is in a sutra form, that is Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and 9 common obstacles are there. Poor health, disease, physical pain. What has physical exercise got to do with meditation? Well, the whole physical culture is there so that the instrument that you're using to sit is not your distraction. It is something to your benefit. And the way you sit is to your benefit, to keep the mind alert, and also to accommodate some physiological changes that may occur during meditation. Physical dullness, mental laziness. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then you see the exception becomes the rule. A lack of understanding of the supreme goal and the benefits is the cause of that. And the doubt or lack of confidence. Oh, I'm not sure I can meditate. I've never done it before. But take it as an experiment. It is your own mind you're exploring, and your own inner dimensions you're exploring. People explore the depths of the ocean. People explore the heights of the mountains. People explore the farthest reaches of the cosmos. But whoever wants to explore their own mind, you see, and their own inner nature, this is a wonderful exploration. If you take the attitude of an explorer, you'll be a superb meditator. And then, of course, there's the prioritizing. of the outer world, the sense enjoyments over and above spiritual practice, mistaking the temporal for the permanent. And therefore, we have to employ viveka, discernment. And scattered mind or poor concentration is the primary difficulty for us. And then there are temporary regressions where we lose our faith in the practice. And then there are some common temperament-based obstacles that I have mentioned. Activity sometimes gets in the way, and activity then becomes a priority. Thinking gets in the way, prevents concentration. Emotions and moods can get in the way, resulting in procrastination. And trying to meditate instead of letting go. Trying is a very negative term because there's a possibility of failure. I'll try and do it. No, do it. Do it or don't do it. Instead of letting go, meditation is letting go. It disrupts the mind and creates anxiety. And then there are other general distractions. And the symptoms that arise from distractions, we can all identify. If you have any symptoms of grief or unhappiness or depression, or mental distress, or even a shaking or an irregularity of breathing, or some irregularity in the nervous system, or lack of steadiness, all of these are symptoms of lack of concentration. And then, of course, personality culture would be a remedy for this. And this is all taken from Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Having friendly attitudes to all, having compassion for all, having joy, having absence of criticism and blaming, and being equal-minded in the face of opposite extremes. And then, of course, to control the vital force. We do this through holy company, discrimination, elimination, eradication of desires, or the systematic regulation of your breath. That's an optional system to do it, just to steady the nerves in case the nervous system that is upset by wrong thinking stands in the way of your concentration. The meditation process is like this: silence, reflection, introspection, meditation, communion. These are the various steps. We can put it in a different way: contemplating a subject, simple meditation, then deeper meditation, but finally listening. Listening really is the ultimate form of meditation. Now, Joel Goldsmith's book, The Art of Meditation, is well worth reading and well worth studying. It's divided into various sections and chapters: the principle, the practice, and eventually what do you get from it. I'll read a little bit from his book. It is not really we who pray or meditate at all, he says. The Spirit meditates within us, and we simply open our consciousness to let the Spirit reveal our need and its fulfillment. Therein is the secret. How different that is from doing mental work, declaring or affirming that this or that shall come to pass. And now, this minute. Rather, in going into meditation, our attitude should be that of the little boy. Speak, Lord, for thy servant hears. And this is the true attitude with which to enter into meditation, opening our consciousness to the divine and letting the divine fulfill itself within us. Let the divine utter its word within us and within our being, and our words, but not the word. We shall find that word to be quick and sharp and powerful. It doesn't return unto us empty. It does the work, and whereunto it is sent, but it must be the word of the divine, not your desire or my desire. The true aspirant on the spiritual path has no desire other than the fulfillment of God, the realization of God, the experience of the Christ. How could there possibly be an unfulfilled need if the Christ, he's a Christian, speaking Christian language, is operating in our consciousness? The Christ must fulfill itself. One desire alone is legitimate, and that is the realization of this activity of this divine in our consciousness. What a beautiful passage. He writes so beautifully, and so profound, with every word thought out so well and expressed so beautifully. He says on a personal note, during the years of my own unfoldment, it was necessary for me to let these commonly accepted synonyms for the divine, let's say God, drop away one by one, because it was not possible for me to know what those who revealed them meant by the use of these terms. Don't use other people's terms. In fact, if you have this personal, intimate encounter in the depths of your heart, surely some spontaneous terms of endearment will come out, some expressions. And devotional meditation is nothing more than practicing the divine presence. And when we catch that, it is an emotional exchange. It is an exchange of absolute receptivity of divine love and a natural, spontaneous giving back. And there are wonderful mystic poets who express this so beautifully. The great Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi is one of them. Rumi is another. All these great Sufi mystics will tell us in the language of the lover and the beloved, and this union between the two. So a term that he likes, and I also like, is infinite invisible. It denotes something which cannot be really understood with the head. It can't be understood by the finite mind. And this doesn't mean, however, that the infinite invisible is the correct term. You use your own term, use your own understanding. But it must be simple, it must be genuine, it must be heartfelt, it must be a real connection, it must be a deep, profound experience. And above all, as long as you are talking, as long as the mind is busy, as long as activities are going on in the mental field, you will not be able to listen to the silent, sweet, still voice of the divine within you, which really constitutes meditation. You see, you can say meditation of two types, eyes open, eyes closed. Meditation with eyes open is your normal waking life. It is tuning into the glory of the divine self in other people and places and events, catching the scene as a divinely presented drama. That requires practice, but the rewards are immense because there's a transformation in you, in your own unconscious area, and there's a transformation in the world around you also. That is the science of it. The science of it is that all of this has come from an expression of a cosmic mind. And by applying thought, we're able to mobilize the entire universe. So every thought comes to fruition. When we learn the art of issuing a thought without contradicting it, with pure faith, that every thought will carry through. But then we have to be watchful about the thoughts that come up. That's the one thing, and that is a precondition. Patanjali calls this yama. That is, having all the virtues during your normal 8-hour waking life and beyond. So that when you sit down for meditation, the 99.999% of your day does not crowd in. So it is a question of developing a positive habit throughout the day so that sitting down becomes easy and natural. And it should be effortless, often compared to you're witnessing a beautiful scene externally. If you admire a sunrise or a sunset, There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to attain. You don't want to take the scene and put it in your pocket and take it off with you. You don't want to make any corrections. You don't want to say, Lord, 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 your pink wasn't exactly right. We should put a little orange there and put something else here. We wouldn't make those corrections. So it's simply to accept it, that it is here, that it is now, and also that it is love. This divine is here, is now, is love. It's a wonderful, wonderful mantra to repeat, a set of positive affirmations. So when that is mastered, then we can sit down easily, and whatever comes up to the mind becomes an indicator that leads us in a kind of canalized way inward, with a guiding script into the very depths of reality and pure being, until we come to a point where we allow the reverse to happen. In other words, our own effort gets suspended and becomes a revealing thing. And for this reason, there are steps. And these steps are akin to preparing a runway for a flight above the clouds. And so you may say, oh, I meditated for, let us say, 60 minutes. Well, 50 minutes of that would be all preparing the runway. And the actual meditation would be very small. And that's okay. But the more we practice it, the more it becomes a more significant proportion of the meditation. Well, we'll leave it there then. We just wish you peace. So, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you and to all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
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 Om